This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express Monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hi, friends. Welcome to this week's pod. This is a show for the week of July 15th, 2024. And this is what's going on our Disney World. And it's a lot of analytics and a lot of numbers. And Phil, it just kind of turned out that way.
Yeah. I don't know if it was the plan or whatever, but I guess it went over so well when I was talking about my numbers the last time that I decided to go back to that well.
Well, I mean, like, we're kind of getting back into the, gosh, can we even call it old school anymore, since it was like been 5 years since we've been talking about like Fast Pass Plus strategies and stuff like that. So we were going through a bunch of stuff, and Len Testa on the WDW Magic Forums was posting some metrics. We're going to go through a bunch of those type of things about ADRs and lightning lane numbers. And I started thinking about a strategy about how to do lightning lane, like physically, how do we do this type of thing? And then that led to, of course, spreadsheets and everything else. So we're going to talk about that in a bunch. But first, we wanted to welcome Little Miss Disney, who joined our YouTube channel I think it was last week. We forgot to announce her last week. So apologies for that, but thank you for joining. As everything, everybody's kind of like, rumors are starting to float around of what's happening at D23. We're going to have a special guest. We'll announce at the end of the show who that is next week to talk about D23. But you go on to his Twitter, you go on to Discord, you go on to any of the forums, people are just either guessing what's coming next month. And what did we say? 3.5 weeks, Phil?
About 3.5 weeks. Yeah, just almost 4 weeks, but yeah.
There's a couple of quote-unquote insiders or leakers or whatever you want to call them in the WDW Magic forums. They haven't been banned, so I want to call them leakers, right? They have sources. Yeah. And a lot of them are self-proclaimed like 20-somethings, like I'm 21 years old, I'm 20 years old. So I don't know how viable these are, but there was one person, Moth, who started posting a whole bunch of different speculative type of things. And one thing caught your attention, Phil. So what was that? Yeah,
so, and kind of what it kind of snowballed from this. So this was the start of it. But I think there's always a lot of things getting talked about at Disney. And generally when these things get reported, it probably is something that somebody mentioned somewhere, but that doesn't mean it's anything that's going to materialize. And people, there's always games of telephone and stuff like that. But anyway.
But hold on a second, Phil. I just want to mention, none of this is the hack leak that happened. So all this information is away from that. So we're not like sharing illicit information.
No.
Kind of rumors.
Yeah. Fair point about that.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah. So Moth posted, I'm slowly filling the mold of other leakers where they drop little crumbs. So a lot of times you have to kind of piece together the hints that they put in there. So but all I've been told is really the name was picked, and the name meaning Horizons. So you remember, I don't know if we mentioned it, but we posted about it, and you put together a banner thing, what's going to be talked about, because they announced the show is going to be called Horizons, or the panel is going to be called Horizons, when Josh talks about what's going to happen at parks and that sort of thing, which obviously most people know the famous attraction that used to be at EPCOT called Horizons. So
I don't know if a lot of people like deep EPCOT fans might know that, but it's been closed for quite 20 years.
Yeah.
Ish. Yeah. Like, whatever was before Mission Space, basically.
Yeah. So anyway, for those of you who don't know what that was, it was sort of considered the culmination of all the different dark rides Disney had done, and kind of the classic EPCOT fans like really hold it to a high regard. It was also a loose sequel to Carousel of Progress. It kind of featured the same family and stuff like that. So anyways, so he says the name, meaning Horizons, was picked for a big and important reason. And then it says, this is surely I'm adding some emphasis here. This is surely a carousel of emotions for me. I don't think I can progress this much further. So basically trying to say Carousel of Progress, Horizons, which was the sequel to Carousel of Progress. And basically everybody just started running off, well, what does this mean? And people were speculating, does this mean they're going to update Carousel of Progress? Are they going to do something related to, Carousel of Progress 3.0, like kind of what comes after Horizons? What is this going to be? And then it also led to the conversation of, well, can they even touch Carousel of Progress? They're not going to remove Carousel of Progress, are there? And that got me thinking, in snowballing down the chain of thought, is what are quote unquote untouchable rides? Like, what are attractions at the different Disney parks that they really can't remove, or not just like kind of the random 5 people that are going to chain themselves to the DVC kiosk in Hollywood Studios because it means something to them, but like that the whole community would really be like, no, this is like a sacred thing that you can't touch. And
I mean,
thinking Carousel of Progress, obviously that was so significant for what it was at the World's Fair and how much Walt had a hand in it and stuff like that. That has historical connections for the company.
I don't think anything is untouchable, right? So untouchable meaning you can never update it, never.
Yeah, so I guess I should say, in my mind, I was thinking more that you couldn't remove it or completely redo it so it doesn't resemble what was there before. You definitely can update things. Okay. Obviously, the Carousel of Progress has been updated over the years several times. For as an example, Haunted Mansion's updated all the times. Country Bears was just updated. So not things can get tweaked, but that the core, the essence of what it is still the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think you named most of them. Like Carousel of Progress cannot ever be. I mean, you can move it to like EPCOT, right? If they wanted to spend all the money and transport it. But I think those animatronics, that show, the way it's set up, I mean, that's part of history, right? I mean, if it. Like the Smithsonian would like go to war with the Disney company.
No, I agree with you. They definitely.
Right?
I could see them move it, whether it's to Disney Springs or back to Disneyland, or even like to the Smithsonian or something like that. But it can't just be destroyed.
No, and I think it would always stay on Disney property. I don't think it would ever go anywhere, that type of thing. And please don't move it to California, because then I would probably never see it again, or at least my family, because we're not going on to the West Coast. The Tiki Room for me has a special place in my heart. I think you can. I don't think you can remove it. Like I would be heartbroken if they moved it out of Adventureland and kind of got rid of it. Right? I could see why we could get rid of it, because it's doesn't hold as many people. A lot of people don't go there. It's never really at capacity. But I mean, I'm open for adjusting it and changing it and doing those type of things. But outright and remove it, I think the Tiki Room doesn't take up that much square footage anyway, as it is. So I think that has to be kind of untouchable. I think that has to stay there too, because again, Magic Kingdom needs more like shows that are people eaters, and I don't know. I'm not too sure if Phil. I'd be curious to see what gets more people or percentage of capacity, higher percentage of capacity, Tiki Room or something like Mickey's PhilharMagic. I'm curious, because PhilharMagic has higher capacity, but anyway, that's another tangent. Small World. I mean, I guess Small World belongs at every castle park, right, Phil?
Well, it's not at every castle park, but it's at most. And I specifically think the one at Disneyland, which is the one that was at the World's Fair and stuff like
that's
that.
Untouchable.
I think that one specifically is untouchable. So I think a lot of people would miss it if it was at the Magic Kingdom in Florida, but if they did something great with that space, I think it could be okay. But I don't think you could touch the one in Disneyland.
I agree. I would not be sad. I don't know anybody that would really be sad if they moved Small World and Magic Kingdom, to be honest with you. Maybe replicate it in like EPCOT, because that's a perfect, attraction for World Showcase, right? Kind of fits perfectly. I was always an advocate, because that's a huge building.
It is. You could do that show building is huge, space. Yeah. And I was also thinking like you could almost use that space as a passageway into Beyond Big Thunder and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think there's things they could do with that space, but the one in Disneyland, I think, for historical purposes.
I don't think they would ever get rid of Pirates, right? Yep. So that's kind of untouchable. Haunted Mansion is probably untouchable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think People Mover is untouchable. I could see them, because they did it at Land.
They did it at Disneyland, yeah.
So I don't. I mean, as much as people love the People Mover, and it's a cult classic, I guess, with a lot of Disney fans, I can see them knocking it down in a future Tomorrowland update, because they want better sight lines. We talked about this in I don't know how many different shows over the last
related to Tron and stuff. Yeah.
So I don't think that's untouchable. But I mean, other than maybe I think the only other untouchable things are like the castles themselves.
Oh yeah, well that's true.
But that's about it. Yeah. Like, is Jungle Cruise untouchable?
I think it is, because it feels like the parks would just feel so incomplete without it. But I don't know if that's my bias coming in, but it's another one that Walt was so closely involved with and stuff. So maybe it's another one where at Disneyland they can't, but maybe at Walt Disney World they could.
True. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, everything at Hollywood Studios is utterly like touchable, right? Like that park is like there's nothing there that I think the closest thing in Hollywood Studios would be Tower of Terror because people are huge fans of that. But I still think you can if you tore that down for whatever reason. I mean, they would never do it, but like I don't think there'd be too much of a stink about it.
Yeah, there was a bit of a stink when they changed it to Guardians of the Galaxy over at California Adventure, but now that people enjoy that version, they're like, maybe it's not so bad to change it.
At EPCOT, I mean, obviously you can't get rid of Spaceship Earth. That's untouchable. That's always going to be there in some form.
I was going to say at least the structure.
Yes.
They can't knock down the sphere. Now, maybe they could drastically change. There were plans to turn it into a roller coaster and stuff like that, so it's not like significant changes are there, but you definitely can't take down the golf ball.
I mean, Soarin' is not untouchable as much. Like they would never get rid of it anyway, but like I don't think that's untouchable. I mean, like it would stink, but I could see not being too upset when it was gone, as long as, assuming that we went through a decade of actually adding capacity to parks before we start removing things, right? That's the whole thing. And then in Animal Kingdom, like half the park is being touched. So one half of the park was built like in 2017, the other half is being torn down. So I don't know.
Yeah, Safari. I mean, I put in here that's why I put functionally the Safari. Like, could you really have Animal Kingdom without the Safari ride? I mean, without Kilimanjaro Safaris, it would be really weird to like have that park without it. But
I mean, that's the staple of the park. You're supposed to go on the safari when you go there.
Yeah, it just feels like the park wouldn't be the same without it. I also put Expedition Everest. It feels so iconic there in that spot. And I just can't imagine it not being there. It feels so ingrained in that park now. But I mean, never say never, I guess.
I mean, it's so new. I don't personally think it's iconic. But I always love going early in the morning and seeing the shrine fit in with. I love that approach every single. I go the long way to Everest just so I can
get that view.
I love it so much. You have one last one here that
which isn't an attraction, but it's the Contemporary Hotel. Again, it's so close, almost like how the golf ball is to Epcot. I kind of feel like the Contemporary Hotel is to the Florida project, is to Walt Disney World. Every advertisement early on had like a drawing of the monorail going through the Contemporary Hotel and stuff like that. Obviously, they could change the theme, they could do all that sort of thing, but
you need a monorail going through
a hotel. Exactly. Yeah.
There should be more monorails that go through hotels. There should be more contemporaries, better looking ones, right?
Yeah.
But I think there should be more of that. Let us know if you think there's any other untouchable rides. It feels like we named like all of them in the parks, but maybe what else might be untouchable that's not in the parks? And it's definitely not Magical Express because they touched that the heck out of here too. So there goes that. Another subject that has been kind of like up there a little bit. Phil, you mentioned that when you were looking at ADRs and your wife and everything else, there was a lot of availability.
Yeah.
Lentes has talked on the show quite a bit. Why is there so much ADRs available? The restaurants were open. He posted a picture of Crystal Palace one morning, and it was like basically a ghost town. It was like him and like 3 other people in there, or 3 other parties. And there's a lot of different guesses. So of why it is, it's people are spending money elsewhere in the parks, so the parks are more expensive, the budgets are not for that type of thing. But he also correlated with the onset of prefix menus.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about them a lot on WDW Magic forums. But one of the things is he charted his data, his satisfaction data for restaurants. And Be Our Guest had like a pretty steady, right around like 90-ish percentile of satisfaction, and Skipper Canteen is kind of a little bit of a roller coaster, but it kind of stabilized around 85 to 90%. And then he put a red dot on this chart of when it converted from the half quick service and then dinner table service restaurant to a prefix menu, where it's now, I looked it up today, it's $71 per adult and $41 for a child.
Yeah. And it's the same dinner and lunch, no breakfast.
Right.
That's the only option.
That's the only way you get in. And I think I did the math, like for my family, it's like $320, something.
Yeah, I think you said ridiculous. Like $350 once you added in tax tip and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
And then, so he put a red dot, and then all of a sudden from that red dot, the satisfaction scores tanked from like 89% all the way down to
about 65 now.
65%. Where Skipper Canteen has gone up, right? People are more satisfied. It peaked around, I can't read my screen. Phil, can you help me out there?
Yeah, it's about 94-ish or something. It's currently at about 91, 92.
Yeah, so it rose. So the speculation here is once prefix menus come in, people are just like, I don't want to spend all this money for all of this food. And, what I posted was my experience at Space 220 when I just went with my wife back in 22. And I think we were actually at Disney World right now 2 years ago. On our trip. It was the first, I couldn't wait to go see it. I was tracking this all the way before the pandemic and then after the pandemic, because everybody remembers it was supposed to open and then it didn't, and there's some changes and whatever it might be. So we were there. I canceled in Oga's. I got a Space 220 because it was refreshing. I was like, oh, there, let's go. And you go in, the whole bringing you up to the space station is really cool effect. Inside is not the most amazing thing in the world, but it's really cool, right? It's a unique environment. And we sat down for lunch. I didn't realize it was a prefix menu. I totally forgot about that. And it was just like, okay, you have to pay $60 a head for lunch. And I'm like, ooh, okay. The food was good. I mean, I wasn't dissatisfied, but I also didn't want to spend $120 on lunch either.
Yeah.
I thought I was hoping to go up there, maybe spend $20, $30 a person on like a hamburger or a sandwich or something else like that. But no, you had to get the I forget what it was at the time. It was like an appetizer.
Yeah, for lunch, it's an appetizer and entree, and then the dinner is appetizer, entree, and dessert.
Yeah. So, and I grabbed a beer or whatever. We spent a lot of money, but I'm like, I don't ever want to go to a prefix menu ever again. Because I don't want to spend that much money, especially when you have kids. Like it's crazy. So that's something to think about, to watch for, I think, in the future, Phil, is does Disney lighten up with prefix menus, or do they hang on? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's interesting because they first started. A lot of times when they adjust things like this, it's because the restaurants are so crowded and so popular. It started, I think one of the first examples of something similar was when Les Célèbres went from 1 table service credit to 2 table service credits because it was too crowded. And then once they made it 2 table service credits, it was actually pretty easy to get in. And I think same thing happened. Be Our Guest was like impossible to get an ADR for when it was, whether it was for lunch, breakfast, or dinner. And then they made it this prefix, and now it's easy to get in, or relatively easy to get in. So it's interesting, though, now that it's almost really easy to get into all these places. Are they going to back off that a little bit, or are they still going to say it's better for it to be half empty? We have half the staff, and per person, we're still getting a lot more money. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because I another example of this, it's kind of ironic. They just had their review out today, but the Diz ate at California Grill and put out their review of it, and almost all of them were saying like their food and everything was good, but the value is just not there because of what you have to pay for it. And I commented, and I think I put this a few places. We used to go there. I mean, not every trip because it was still expensive, but like quite often because we really enjoyed the food and the view and blah, blah, blah. We haven't been back since it's a prefix. We just won't. It's $95, I think, an adult, or $89 or something. It's $89.
All Disney adults now.
And yeah, as of this coming Sunday, my youngest will become a Disney adult. I'm not paying $89 for each of my kids to go there and not eat. I don't know.
You don't want to spend $500 on a Disney dinner?
No. But the funny thing is, though, when we went there before, between ordering, some drinks, and we would get some flatbreads and some sushi. Like, it wasn't like we were getting, a pizza to share and water and just sitting there. For
you're
the fires,
spending $200-$300 for the food.
But it was how we wanted to spend it, and it was $200-$300, not $500 or whatever, for a structure that we didn't really like. So I don't know. I hope they switch things up. I'm fine when prefixes for for a special event, or like maybe a dessert thing, but not the standard option or the only option at so many places. It just gets a little frustrating. And like I said, now with the Disney adults, anything that's a prefix, a buffet, whatever, is pretty much off the table because I just can't spend that much.
I mean, I think there's a couple things they could do. I mean, I remember Be Our Guest for dinner. A lot of people go in and just for like the gray stuff, and then we'll take. I mean, like I feel bad. I used to be a server. I felt bad. Like a table comes in at 4. You know, it's your living there, and they have like a $20 tab when you're normally pulling $150, $200, and you're relying on that for tips. I loved Be Our Guest for dinner. It was so much better than lunch, and we'll never get back there because again. There's another topic that came up that you were talking about. We were going back and forth on the forums about where I think Disney needs a middle ground between Disney kids and Disney adults.
Oh yeah,
because I think between 10 years old and 21 years old, where they can't order an adult beverage, or maybe they can't appreciate a 3-course meal at Be Our Guest. Because my daughter's by the time we go next year, my son will be 10, my daughter will be 12. Just looking at Be Our Guest, my daughter might enjoy it, but I don't think she needs a $71 dinner. My son will definitely not eat all of that food. So that's something to consider. I just keep an eye out. Has D23 ever made comments on like restaurants or stuff like that, or has it always been like attractions and entertainment?
Yeah, they might have announced some new restaurant or something like that. I forget if they maybe announced like Woody's Roundup type thing might have gotten announced.
Right,
that one of them.
You're right. Yep.
And they might have announced like for the 50th, like, and there'll be special menus or something like that. But it's usually not super restaurant heavy.
Yep. So keep your eye out for that.
But what do you think would be a good alternative? Because we were trying to snowball ideas, maybe having, okay, it's not a prefix, but there's kind of a minimum spend for table or something like that. Or you have, like at Summer House is doing, you want to have that firework view, you got to pay $25 or something. And then you can order whatever you want on top of it, but you could also just sit there. Like, I don't know, is there something like where there's almost like a get-in fee type thing?
No, I don't think there should be a get-in fee unless it's like California Grill and you want to say like there is if you're at the table between, let's say, 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock, because that's fireworks time, right? Yeah. It's your minimum order is, I don't know, $30 a person, $50. Whatever it might be, right? Because it's essentially almost a dessert party, right? Yeah. So, you could do something like that. But like at Be Our Guest, I think it needs to go back to a regular menu. Like if I go in, a lot of those dishes look delicious, but I want to go in there and I just did a Be Our Guest or a Beauty and the Beast song thing. Anyway. The dishes look delicious. Right. Anyway, I mean, I would order some of those things, but I would spend like $30 if I could go in and get like a $30 plate or even a $40 plate, but just get some water or an iced tea or something else like that, and not an adult beverage. I would go, but I don't want to go in for an appetizer, a dinner, and a dessert for a 3-course meal, spend $70-something, or end up spending $400 for my family. Yeah. Because we're all about ROI. You know what $400 gets me? It gets me converting all of my day tickets to hopper passes. I'd rather do that than sit at Be Our Guest and have that meal that is not.
And that was another thing that people are talking about. Why it might be seeing a decline of in-park dining is if it takes you 2+ hours. That's 2+ hours you're not in the parks, and as tickets go up, each hour you're paying to be in the park goes up, and as overall vacations go up, people are going shorter times. They're not going for a week. Maybe they're only going 4 or 5 days. Like, just time during your vacation becomes a little bit more precious. And are some people saying, I don't want to spend that much time of my park day at a restaurant?
I definitely think there's a dollar conversation going. I don't know if the time, because that time constraint has always been there, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you can compare it unless people are forced to shorten their vacations a little bit, and therefore they only have 1 Magic Kingdom day versus 2 Magic Kingdom days.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking more.
I think that could be a thing potentially. But again, people still take lots of time and they go into the parks late, or they take mid-afternoon breaks and stuff. People are still doing that.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't go from park open to park closed. So they still take some breaks.
I don't know. I mean, there's something there for sure.
And then some people are also speculating with virtual queues and Genie Plus, when you don't know what your return time is, people are just like, it just feels too much to then also have an ADR. That what happens if your Genie Plus return time or virtual queue call is while you're at the restaurant and stuff, and people don't want to take that chance. So it seemed like there was kind of a lot of things, contributing factors to why people are dining less in the parks.
That's a perfect segue, because one another Len Testa's posts were about his observations of lightning lanes So what he's been doing for years, he's got people at the entrance at random attractions, counting the amount of people that go in the standby and the amount of people that go in the lightning lane and lightning lane queue. And he's not differentiating between DAS or plaids or whatever. It's just physical bodies going in. And previously let me pull up the data here. So previously, before the switch on was it May 20th, I guess, when they finally switched over to the new new DAS system.
Yeah, May 27th or something like that.
Yeah. So he says a year ago on July 8th, 2023, we counted 7 Lightning Lane guests for every 10 standby guests at Haunted Mansion. And on other days, the ratio was high as 13 for every 10. So 13 to 10 or 7 to 10. Prior to the DAS switch system, we never saw less than 4 Lightning Lane to 10 standby at the mansion. So that's how many people are walking in to that line. So sometimes at the peak, there's 13 Lightning Lane guests. There's more people in the Lightning Lane than there is standby, right? Yep. So that's at the peak area. So after the switch, the ratio for most things, they never got higher than 8 or 9 guests to the standby. So the peak dropped by 4 people. But on average, it's closer to 2 to 10, 2 Lightning Lane guests to 10 standby. And that's a significant drop. That's like a 80% drop in guests for the most part, which I think is absolutely kind of crazy. So he also mentioned, when it goes to the ratio of guests, it's about 30. What do you say? 44% ride capacity was taken up by Lightning Lane, and it's like 21% now. So my question was, like, how does this affect park ops, right? So to me, the standby lines get shorter, right? Because there's not as many people there. Or they move faster, right?
I was going to say, yeah, that's always thing, because they should theoretically would have more people in them because more people are coming from there, but they would move faster. So your wait time might be lower because it's going faster.
Right. So again, wait times are dropping because they're not taking more from Lightning Lane. Because what is the old thing? It's like for every 8 Lightning Lane people would be 1 standby guest, right? When it's backed up, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it can be as extreme as I think 99 to 1, but like kind of the standard for when it was bad was 9 to 1, and
somewhere
standard operating was 7 to 8, somewhere in there. But yeah, they take way more people from the Lightning Lane, especially when it's backed up, to catch up.
Yeah. So I had a whole bunch of questions, and I really love how Len is actually physically having people there on a clicker, like clicking how many people go in, because it really, really, really counts. So my first question is, a lot of people are talking about, is attendance lower this year than last year? And the answer is yes. But like, how do we measure that other than vibes or people taking pictures of a certain part of Disney World somewhere that looks less crowded than last year, which is a silly way to measure it. So one of the barometers is you can compare the wait time profile on some place like thrillldata.com for this day versus last year, right? Or pick the Friday before 4th of July, or, pick a Friday the same date, right around the same time. And you can start seeing now the weight profiles are significantly less than the average. They're trending that way. And my question, you'd feel, is that wait time dropping because there's less people in the parks? Or is that wait time dropping because these Lightning Lane and DAS changes are making standby lines more efficient?
I mean, I think it's a combination. I think there's just less people in the parks, which is obviously lowering.
Is there like
everything.
20 to 30% less people in the parks? Because some of those wait times are like 20, 30% lower.
I think it might be. I mean, when you see some of the statistics for some of the hotels, somebody we know who works at hotels said they're, I think it was this past weekend or something, they were like 50% booked, one of the hotels on Disney property. I think, it could be down 20 to 30% from at least the peaks, if not from last year. So I think that's part of it. And also when the peaks go down, then less people feel the need to buy Genie Plus. So you have less people there. And then obviously the impact to the DAS program has impacted things. Hopefully you've eliminated all the people that were cheating. You've reduced the number of people who even have DAS are able to bring with them. Unfortunately, some people who probably need DAS are no longer have it either. So there's, just a lot less people with DAS or using DAS. And then, I think less people probably using Genie Plus. Maybe there's less people on tours.
There's also significantly less people that you're allowed to bring with you with a
Yeah.
fast pass.
Yeah,
right?
I mentioned that
So
too.
they,
Yeah,
right now you can only bring 3 guests. I think before it was like up to 8 or something else like that.
I don't know what the number was
6.
before, but
It's a lot.
I think also they were more lenient with you could bring your whole family, like even if there was a number, but it was like, okay, well, if they're grandparents, blah, 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 like if they're
Right.
related to you, you can bring everybody.
Wasn't
Now it's
strict.
like, now it's only immediate family.
So my question, so again, I started to go down a rabbit hole, and like I said at the top of the show, I started making a spreadsheet for all of this. So if standby times are becoming more efficient, that also means there's increased inventory in the Multipass or the Lightning Lane. What is it? Are we calling it the Lightning Lane Multipass?
Yeah, it's
system.
I think the full name is
LLMP?
it's LLMP, Lightning Lane Multiple Pass, and Lightning Lane Single Pass.
Right. So I got to get my acronyms correctly when I start speaking. I can type them properly, but when I actually first start verbalizing, I get tongue tied. Okay, so I believe because of there's less people in the Lightning Lane, that means Disney's should be allowed to, or should operationally release more inventory into the Multipass system. Right, there should be more
Potentially.
Lightning Lanes
Yep.
available. Which increases the value of the product, right? Now, in my opinion, there's going to be a vast difference between how FastPass worked, because this is essentially FastPass Plus, at least for the first half of the day. So, what are before I go into what I'm thinking? What do you think that how this is good? How does this impact the usage of Lightning Lane to you when you start thinking about it? Because you're gonna start
Yep.
you're gonna hit this full in your face in like a couple weeks.
I think it's interesting because if and yeah, I know a lot of people are complaining or making a big deal like, oh, the crowds are lighter, this is horrible, blah blah blah. And I'm like, as somebody who has a trip coming up, I'm enjoying the fact that the lines are shorter. It certainly impacts the feeling of, do I even need to buy, Lightning Lane Multipass? So I think that factors into it, because it's saying, well, if the standby lines are moving, then no big deal. But it does make me think, for something like Magic Kingdom, you'll really be able to crank through a bunch of these rides, because, like you said, availability should be going up. And obviously the way they function is going to be a lot different than Genie Plus, where with being able to pick your time. So it's going to be more like FastPass Plus. And going in, my plan is definitely to have, for the days we have it, is, figure out when we want to ride certain rides and book those for when that is, plan around any breaks and stuff like that. But then also make sure you have at least one as early as you can for when you're going to arrive, because as soon as you use that first one, you can then start booking another and another and another.
So I was plotting this in my mind. So, because I had a theory, depending on how it works, there could be different runs of usage throughout the day, right? Like if you're able to stack these quickly, in some of the parks, there's not that many rides that have this, and then all of a sudden you can go through every single Lightning Lane that's available in the park right away if you go commando crazy and just start charging through rides. So I started plotting out, and then I started thinking, we know that there's a 15-minute overlap rule, right? So if you,
or at least that's what we've reported, I guess.
That's what Scott Gustin said, but I don't know. I asked him today on Twitter, and he never responded. But essentially, at least for pre-booking, I expect that you book let's say the park opens at 9, you could book a 9 to 10, then a 9:45 to 10:45, a 10:30 to 11:30. Right, I did all three, and so they all overlap by 15 minutes. Now, when you immediately use your first one at 9 o'clock, so you go into the park, you do your rope drop attraction, you hit the first Lightning Lane at 9 a.m. or 9:10, whatever that might be. Can you book that track? So they call tracks. I have them color coded. So I have a blue track, a red track, and a green track in my charts. And maybe Phil, you can tweet these out. I don't know if anybody actually wants to see them, but we could do that. So your blue track's at 9 o'clock, and your green track is the third one. Ends at, what did I say? 11:30, 10:30 to 11:30.
Yep.
So does that mean once I use the blue one, I can book that anytime? Like I could book it immediately as soon as I use it, or could I never have any Lightning Lanes overlap, but more than 15 minutes? So therefore, I have to book it at 11:15 is the earliest I can book the next one. So you never have a 15-minute overlap. So I was looking at Magic Kingdom. If you can just if they're all independent of each other, then you can book all three, like I said, previously, and then you can go through at Magic Kingdom and just start using all of them. And I think it might take you like 4 or 5 hours to go through every single attraction if you could do it that way, or even faster if you can run from attraction to attraction.
Right, because as soon as you scan into one, you can do it. Book another.
So I suspect it's going to be the latter, where like you can never have anything overlap more than 15 minutes throughout the whole day, right? Day of and whatever, because that only makes sense operational. Because they don't want people just going ding, 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 and get and kind of go through that and have people running around. So I made a chart that's in our show notes, and I think the best way to do things would be to book your staggered out as tight as possible, if you can, and assuming availability. And then once your blue one, the first one, the 9 o'clock Lightning Lane books, you rebook it for another tier 1 attraction, assuming Magic Kingdom, and you book that for later in the night or the afternoon or evening or whatever it might be. You use your second one, and then that's your red track, and then you immediately book that for, again, later in the day. So to kind of give you an idea, you go in, you rope drop, let me pull up Magic Kingdom. You rope drop Space Mountain, and then you have you previously pre-booked Tiana's at 9. You book, random tier 2 at 9:45, and then another tier 2 at 10:30. So you rope drop Space, you do Tiana's, and as soon as you're dinging Tiana's, then you go find either Jungle Cruise or Peter Pan. You book that for, let's say, 7 p.m. And then you go to your first tier 2. I have Barnstormer on here. Once you're done with Barnstormer, then you book Peter Pan for 7:45 at night. So you layer them all later in the night. You stack them for later, and then you have a free Tiana's that you can then book for Big Thunder Mountain if you can get it for what I have on there, 11:15, I think.
Yeah.
And then once you get done with that, if you could do it that quickly and availability is there, all of a sudden you have all your tier 1 attractions. You got 2 for later in the day, and then you just take that blue track and you just start going from tier 2 attraction to tier 2 attraction. You go on, you book, rebook. You go back, and you pick and go. And if you could do that, assuming 30 minutes per ride, meaning time to travel, time to go through the Lightning Lane queue, ride the attraction, get out, and go to the next one, I think you're done by around 5:30 or so. And you've used every single Lightning Lane in the park, and you have 2 more for after dinner. I don't know if that came out really well in audio format, and I'm not showing it on YouTube either. But I think there's some methods to this where you can get everything done quickly if availability is there, and if there's more inventory, it will allow you to do this.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see what the take up is for this, because obviously everybody was always strategizing how to like maximize FastPass Plus, but everybody had that, right? So you kind of had to figure out how to kind of keep refreshing and kind of get your rest. Now a relatively small portion of the populace is going to have it. So how much there could be a lot of availability, and it's going to be really easy to get your next ones, like no big deal. Because with that on-site advantage that they have of being able to book it 7 days versus 3 days, are now a lot of off-site people going to say, well, I'm not even going to bother getting it, because I'm added, so it could be a lot less people actually having it. So I'm really interested to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can expect, at least at the onset, to have anywhere between 20 and 40% of the guests to have this, right?
Yeah.
So immediately, you're about 50, let's say even 50% less than the FastPass Plus days, right? Because everybody had it then.
Right.
There's no re-ride, so that kind of makes up for it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's going to be curious because I also suspect, and I don't know if this is a boring conversation for people, so I'm sorry, but we'll leave it at with this. We have to pay attention to where there are going to be Lightning Lane drops. And what I mean for drops, that drops is a term for when Disney puts additional Lightning Lane availability into the system. So back in the day with FastPass drops, they did this with Genie Plus too a little bit. Whereas, like, let's say there's no Peter Pan, but at 1 p.m., they always drop more availability into the FastPass Plus system. So if you refreshed immediately at 1 p.m., like you do with a virtual queue in the morning at 7 a.m., you could get a Peter Pan because everybody knew they dropped inventory there. So I suspect they're going to open up the inventory at plus 7 days. Then they're going to potentially add more inventory at plus 3 days, but it's significantly less. Then I expect them to add inventory at like 7 a.m. or park open or sometime around there,
Yeah.
and then potentially later in the day if things aren't being used, that type of thing. So we have people are going to find out exactly when. And
Oh yeah,
if you
all
pay
of this will
attention,
come out quickly, I'm sure.
yeah, and if you pay attention, you're going to know how to really game the system. But the system's has such limitations because you can't re-ride.
Yeah.
So if you get through at what Magic Kingdom's got, like 20 different attractions you can go on, 15,
Something like that.
I can't remember, something like that. And then anyway, what this leads me to believe is that you don't need Lightning Lane Multipass at Epcot or Animal Kingdom, and it's sometimes questionable at Hollywood Studios.
Yep.
In my opinion. So anyway, we're going to be following you closely as you try to work your way through the system as one of the first people to do it. So look forward to that.
Yep. Side note, I thought this was funny. I think I mentioned before, Touring Plans had put out this great article about it, and I've been following the comments. And somebody put a comment, they go, "Hi, we're first-time travelers, and we're going to be there during our trip is when it switches over." I'm just like, oh my God, like I can't imagine being a first-time visitor and having to experience two different line skipping things. I mean, at least they're aware of it and they're knowledgeable and like kind of know what's going on, but that I would feel a little overwhelmed by that. But I mean, maybe you just say, it is what it is. And
yeah, I mean, like functionally it's still the same, right? Yeah. But maybe you can, if you're going to buy it, you can do it a couple days. Like if you have a long trip, you could maybe book your last day, your first day or something else like that. If you're staying on site, who knows? Okay. So I didn't announce this at the top of the show, but we're going to continue our ranking of quick service restaurants at each park. Phil, why don't you take it away? Where are we going today?
Yeah, so today we are doing Epcot to try to crank out one of the parks that has more dining options. Although I have to say, when I filled this out, I was kind of expecting there to be even more at Epcot. But I guess Epcot has a lot of like kind of kiosks and booths and stuff, and not as many full quick service restaurants as maybe in my head it had. But there's still a handful.
Yeah, there's quite a bit actually.
So we are going to start, as a reminder, the categories that we pick are we're going to go through menu, our thoughts on the menu, both kind of like what's there, uniqueness of it, and variety and how many options, quality of the food, value of things out there, the theming, and then just the general vibe of being there and eating there. And one thing we did want to talk a little bit about for Epcot is when you're deciding of where to eat at Epcot, very often the decision is we'll eat at the festival booths, which other than this summer, there's almost always festival booths at Epcot. We decided to, I think, not have them. We were thinking, should we have one line item kind of representing all the festival booths or something like that? But we decided, I think, just to keep it to actual things that Disney lists out as kind of the quick service options versus thinking of the festival booths in general. Just knowing that is something that you definitely have to contemplate when you're thinking about, because if you go to a booth or two, you're probably spending as much money as you would on a quick service meal. So the first option is Connections Eatery. So this is a relatively new location that opened up in World Celebration in the center of Epcot. That it says, take your taste buds on a tour around the world with dishes inspired by Italian, French, and Asian cuisines, which I think sounds a lot fancier than what the actual menu is. French and the first things, well, I guess there's a French style burger, an American burger, chicken sandwich. Then there's some pizzas, salad. I guess there's a General Tso's chicken salad. So that's how you get the Asian in there and stuff like that. So I think they're being a little generous with how their terms are here. They do have a new house-made black bean burger that I've heard is very good and stuff like that. And then they do have that chocolate matcha Baumkuchen dessert, which is kind of custom there. I don't know if you've seen them. They're kind of those semicircle layers dessert. They have different one for each festival and stuff like that.
Okay.
I got one last time. It was actually really good. And they're huge too. They're good value for what they are. So they have a couple sort of unique things there. They usually have some unique cocktails and stuff like that, but it's overall, it's not the most broad or crazy menu, but it's kind of a good go-to if you need something for kind of kids and stuff like that. I know my kids I like this place, and I think the quality is pretty good for what you get. But overall, so I guess looking at the menu, what would you give the menu? And again, we're giving everything ratings, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest.
I give the menu a 2 at this place. I mean, it's not too impressive and it's
Yeah.
not too unique. It's burgers and crummy Disney World pizza.
Yep.
So it's not exciting to me. I mean, I wouldn't go here unless like the kids were starving and we were happening to be there and we didn't feel like walking somewhere else.
Yeah, I do think the menus, because they have a few things, are maybe slightly better than like a Cosmic Rays or something like that. But I think so. I would definitely wouldn't give it just a 1, but I think 2 is okay.
Okay.
Quality. I know everything we've had has been pretty good. I think it's, it's as good or better than kind of similar places around. Like I said, I think some of the desserts are pretty good, but I'm not going to go crazy either.
I mean, I'm like a 2 or a 3 here. I mean, it's not bad food.
Yeah, I
by
think
any
a
means,
2 is fine.
because the pizzas bring it. Because that's the pizzas on it, they're always going to bring it down no matter what.
Value. It's kind of got the, $14 for a burger, $13 for a burger, $11 pizza, $12 salad.
I mean,
Kind
it's
of
a
general
3.
stuff.
It's a 3 for me because again, it's not expensive and you get what you get. I mean,
Yep.
it's expensive as like a Burger King meal, type of thing. So like, I'm good with that.
Yep. Theming. There's not a ton of theming. It does have that really nice mural and stuff. So
True. I'm like a 1. I mean, it's not really like themed at all. It looks like a cafeteria. Do you agree with that?
yeah, I think theming, there's not much of a theme, especially when they try to say it's this international thing and stuff like that. You don't really get that.
I mean, it gives me airport vibes.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. And the speaking of vibes, it's 1 because it's always super crowded in there, and it's somewhere like the only if you want to consider the center of World, I always forget it. World
Celebration.
Thank you. Those are really terrible names, by the way. World Celebration, and like if you want to include where you can eat, kind of in the middle there, the vibes go up. Like that's a huge plus for vibes. But I don't know if we can include that.
Yeah, not really. I mean, it does
at
have
all.
some outside seating, I think, but it's really, I mean, the vibe inside is very cafeteria. Like, I kind of want to give a little credit for that mural and some of the light fixture. Like, it's slightly elevated than other.
It's nice in there.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
So you want to? I mean, I can't go more than a 2.
I was thinking maybe a 2 because I just think it's better than some.
It just gets too crowded. If it was less crowded and less like a pass through for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and it's a huge place for people to go in and use the bathroom too. So you get like that kind of mix.
Yeah, and it also kind of shares like the space with where the Starbucks is, so people are kind of crossing through and stuff like that. Yeah.
Also, yeah.
Okay. Next place is. It has a really long name in French that I can't really say, but it's the crepe place in the French pavilion. Crepes imported by La Crêperie de Paris.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah, I shouldn't have tried that. Yeah,
no,
okay.
But good. But I appreciate the attempt.
Yeah, so it's the quick service crepe place where you order on the outside. You can have sweet or savory crepes, and they have what they call it. Which the savory ones are the galettes, the sweet ones are the crepes. They also have ice cream. You can also order your hard ciders here and sparkling drinks and wines and stuff like that. So it's not a huge menu, but it is a little bit unique by having these kind of crepes. I mean, I think not a lot of people in their hometown can get, brie crepes and ratatouille crepes and stuff like that.
True.
So what are your thoughts on the menu here?
I mean, they're crepes. I enjoy going there. I don't think I could give it a 3 just because it is a limited menu, but like the menu itself, I mean, I don't know. I have to. I guess it's better than Connection, so I have to go. I guess I have to go through 3.
I think there's enough there that people can find different things, and it's unique. So I would go at least a 3. But yeah, it is. It's not a huge menu.
Yeah. Yep. 3.
The quality, we've enjoyed them whenever we got them. We usually get some of the sweet ones, and we kind of share them, and they go really quick. So.
I mean, the quality is good because we keep going back for them. So I'm gonna have to match that with a 3.
Yep. And then value. So just to go through some of the savory crepes are like 11 or 12. The sweet ones are like 7 or 8. Ciders are $7, stuff like that. So.
I think it's a fair value. I mean, I think it's solid at a 3 because you can get something there for under $10, which is
I think you can get pretty full for not too much, but it's also not. They're not the most substantial things. It's not like getting a steak or anything like that. Theming, it is just a booth. There's no real seating or anything, but it's right in that back part of the France Pavilion, which is pretty lovely. So the area is great.
The area is awesome, but can you give the area credit to this like window in the side of a building type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that goes maybe more to the vibe, but
Okay, let's say theming then, because you are hearing the music. I think I have to give the theming a 4 then, because that's one of my favorite places in
Yeah.
Epcot. But again, I have to downgrade it because the bathroom is like 30 feet away.
so would it go like 3 for theming and 4 for vibe, or?
I mean, honestly, I would give 4 for both of them.
Okay.
Just because I love that part of the park. But you could argue me down if you
No,
think
that's fine. I'm good with that.
Okay.
The next one is this was listed out when I searched for kind of quick service place, was the Festival Favorites, which is located in the new Communicore Plaza, where you can stop by this casual eatery to explore an ever-changing menu, which hasn't changed yet since it's open, filled with popular dishes from various Epcot festivals. Right now it is featuring the arepas and a couple other things, but obviously it's a fairly limited menu. Right now they have the 2 different arepas and a tres leches dessert, and then it has desserts and drinks. It does have, I guess they're not fully open, but there are a lot of taps there for having different beers and ciders and stuff like that. Right now they have about 5 different ones, but it's a pretty limited menu.
Yeah, I have to get a menu at 2 until I see this during a festival.
Yeah.
And then this might go up because there's potential for this to be awesome.
Yeah.
But right now, I think it's just like a 2.
Yep. Quality. I know my wife got a few things from here when she stopped by, and she got the arepa with the avocado and chicken. Thought it was very good. It's definitely, it feels like because it's more of a full kitchen, the stuff is prepared better than at the booths. So it's kind of like a little bit better, but it's still not the same as like a full restaurant.
What would your wife give this?
I think because not everything was great, and I think again we probably need to see more. I'd probably give it a 3.
Fair. I mean, that's what I would lean on from what the pictures I've seen. But again, I obviously haven't been there in 2 months. So
yeah, and prices they're like $5 or $6 for everything. We probably need to see more.
Value, I think, is good. I mean, it's regular festival booth pricing. It's nothing crazy. So that's a 3. I mean, if it's just kind of fine.
Theming, there's not much theming to
it.
So it's like a 1. And then the vibe, we know that place does not have a good vibe other than being air conditioned.
Isn't there an outside portion to this, or is it you always go inside for this?
No, you go outside to get the food, and then you can go inside to sit down and eat.
So, but like I love the vibe outside. Obviously, when the heat's killing you. I mean, the outside part, because that's right by the Encanto stage, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I dig the vibe. I get the vibe a 3. But if you go indoors, I guess the vibe drops until there's a festival, and maybe it changes. I don't know, but
maybe we'll give it a 3 for now until on the hopes that they do more with it.
Yes,
inside when it's a festival.
I'm with it. Okay, fair enough.
Okay, the next one is the Katsura Grill, which is over in World Showcase in the Japan Pavilion. Quiet your mind and your hunger in this serene setting as you listen to the sound of distant taiko drums. Enjoy teriyaki, sushi, chicken cutlets, curry, salads, and more.
I've never eaten here. So I've always eaten at the Japanese booth, but I've never gone in to eat.
Yep.
So I can't really speak to the menu. The menu looks good. I mean, like I love Japanese food. So I mean, I would go here to eat. I like the menu. I mean, I guess I can only say it's like a 3 because it has a lot of variety to it. I think
it's good variety. I mean, it's just Japanese, and even like the kids' meals. It's like beef and shrimp teriyaki. It's different. Yeah, it's basically different teriyakis and stuff. So it's not going to please every kid, but it's certainly a bit more unique than just having hot dogs and hamburgers and stuff like that. So
yeah, I'm a 3 unless you want to change it.
Nope, 3 sounds good. Quality, I've only had it from here once, and everything was good. It was probably equivalent to what you would get at the booths. So it's definitely not as good as like going into one of the sit down places in Japan, but it's all right for
I love sushi. This is where my daughter discovered her love for sushi, and the sushi was mediocre because again, it's sushi in the heat, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's any better inside. From my booth experience, it's probably a 2 because I don't know how well you can prepare sushi outdoors, but if it's better indoors,
I think it's a little bit better, and it has like some of the teriyaki and the things are a little bit better, and has the curries and stuff. So it's not great, but I think a 3 is fair.
I'll lean on your experience then for that because I've never been inside.
Value, the sushi rolls are like $10 to $14. The noodles are $14 ish. Teriyakis are 15.
I got to go with 2 on this one.
Yeah.
I think because the value. I mean, to me, if you're going to have a decent sushi roll, you're spending $12 to $16 anyway. But it's got to be fresh and good. I don't know how fresh a lot of this stuff is. Not that it's not fresh, but like it's not like, awesome seafood, I guess.
Yep. Theming, I think it is still just kind of a stand that you walk up and that sort of thing, but I think the theming is pretty, feels authentic. It does feel like you're kind of, not in America, that type of a thing.
Yep.
So I think it has good theming. So I don't know, 3 or 4.
I think anything that's in the World Showcase
is
probably default, or the floor is a 3, in my opinion. So that I'll give it a 3 unless you think you need to bump up to a 4.
No, I think 3 is okay.
Okay.
And then Vibe, either a 3 or a 4. I mean, I like the Japan Pavilion. It is kind of cool, especially once you go in, back into it, which you have to get to this a little bit more. So maybe a 4 for the Vibe, I think.
I mean, again, I love the World Showcase. So, like, almost if you're in the pavilion itself, you're like deep in there. Like,
yeah, it feels like really part of the pavilion, not just like you're on the walkway type thing, which I think
I'm with you on that one.
Okay, next, and we'll try to crank through these a little bit, is La Cantina de San Angel, which is mentioned on Mexican Favorites by the World Showcase Lagoon. So it's the Mexican place that is the quick service option that is, basically opposite the entrance to the indoor temple area. And it has kind of your usual, what you would expect from a Mexican place of tacos and nachos and guacamole and sides of beans and empanadas and stuff like that. I always think it's quite good for quick Mexican food, but it's also not anything super amazing or super creative or super unexpected.
I'm super biased. This is one of our family favorites because my daughter loves tacos and nachos and stuff like that. So I have to go with a 4 just because it's a family favorite. But I am super biased. So you could bring it down to a 3 if you think it deserves it.
For the menu, I think a 3 is more appropriate just because I think they could plus it a little bit more. I think there's other even just places in that pavilion.
It is a menu full of staples without any kind of
which
interest.
Has good pluses and minuses.
Yes,
I think it could just be added to a little bit. Quality, I think for what it is, it's quite good.
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I mean, I have to go with a 4 in quality. I've always eaten here. I've never felt like the beans have looked like have been out forever or wilted lettuce or anything else like that. So they do a good job there.
Price, value. A lot of the things are $14, $15. $6, $7 for sides.
I mean,
kids' meals are like $9.50.
The cost for the entrees are high, right? Which is typically, I would say that's the value is low, but the quantity on it, what you get a decent amount for that too.
Yeah.
So it's not like you get 1 taco or 2 tacos, it's $15. You get stuff with it. So I think the value is a 3 because if you got a bigger like the nachos you could share, like this is a good shareable.
Yeah, you could definitely get like 2 entrees and a side and nachos or something like that, and a family of 4 could share that.
Yeah. So if it's just you, a single person going, I think the value is probably a 2 for Mexican food. But because of the share factor, I think the value is at least a 3 with the more people you get because you can get in there, I think.
Yep.
So where do you want to put it? A 2 or a 3?
I give it a 3.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Theming.
I mean, I know you like. I don't think I can go high. Yeah, it's kind of just the area, but there's not really much to the specific location.
No, it's very dirty. It's very crowded. Not dirty, I should say, but it can get dirty if people don't clean up after themselves, and they're like everybody's like hunting for a table. They're like staring over you as you try to eat. If it was less crowded, I love sitting on the water and just kind of seeing World Showcase.
Yeah, I think the vibe has potential to be really nice, but the theming's not too much of it.
It's park benches with like a pagoda above you. So I think the theming is probably a 1, unfortunately.
Yeah, and vibe, it depends how crowded it is. Yes, I think
if it's low crowds, like let's say when I say low crowds, there's at least 1 table available that people aren't hunting for, right? I think the vibe's a 4. But if you can't sit or you're waiting, the vibe's definitely like a 2.
Yeah. So maybe just give it a 3 to average it.
Even it out.
Okay. Next is the House Boulangerie and Patisserie, which is over in the France Pavilion. delicacies at this traditional French bakery, and you can get from soups to salads to the best value in all of Walt Disney World, the fresh baguette, and other different pastries, and obviously wine, champagne beer, and lots of desserts as well. So this is a place that has quite, I mean, especially if we're counting all the pastries and stuff like that, is an absolutely huge menu.
Again, this is a family favorite. My wife forces us to go here every single trip, and I do not fight her on it at all. The menu for this one is a 5 for me.
Yeah, I think so. And they also have the breakfast there and stuff like that. So I'm with you for a 5. Quality, I think it's quite high too. Everything seems
it has
really,
to be a 5. This should not be a quick service place because the quality of the food is fantastic.
And then the value too. I mean, the sandwiches are $10.95. You know, the croque monsieur is $10.50, but you know, some of the other things are only, you know, like I said, you can get the full baguette for $3.95. Like,
well, that's what I was hoping you were going to bring that up, because that is the best snack you can get. Like I've walked into here back in December. I walked in, I got a baguette with some butter, and I brought it over to my girls as we were waiting for Luminous to start, and it cost me $4.
Yeah.
And it's just like I had a giant loaf of bread that I was breaking up, and we were all kind of munching on it. Like the value to me is a 5 just based on that already. And the other prices for everything else are quite good.
It's definitely one of those places though. Like it's easy to be like, oh, I'll get that and that and that and that, and all of a sudden the total gets a little high.
Yes,
but but I think everything, you know, individually is.
If you were
really
disciplined,
if you're disciplined, it's
the
a
value
5.
is good. But no, I mean, just on the baguette alone, the baguettes are delicious, and they're not like stale. They don't like, you know, they made them in a bakery somewhere, and it's just somebody who doesn't know what they're doing is just making long rolls. Right?
Yeah,
these are good, right?
Yeah.
So to me, again, I have to say the value is 5.
Yep. Theming, it is like in the back of France. You really have to go to get there, and it does feel like you're at a cafe or something like that with all the, you know, the present, how everything's presented and the cabinets and stuff like that. But it is still just kind of walking into like a bakery or a deli or something like that. There's not a ton to the theme.
There's not really theming, and the theater kind of opens out on into that, like with like a little
the space,
bit of,
a little bit, yeah.
Like there's like a little bit of a whatchamacallit, gift shop type
Yeah.
area when you walk in. If
And
this
there's
gets
like the
crowded,
Kid Cod is there too. Yeah.
yeah, like if it gets crowded, this is a nightmare to go in and out of. So theming for me drops a little bit. I mean, I'm gonna say it's probably still a 4 because you're still like the walkway in there. Like I've taken the food out, it's sat along the street going in. And
Yeah.
it's just really.
I think
cool
the
vibe.
theming is high, but the vibe is a little low with how like we've had to like hover and wait for tables a lot, or you just get it to
Yeah.
go and stuff, and it can get a little stressful.
It can. I don't like ordering food from there. Because again, it's tight. There's not a lot of room to maneuver, and you can't really look at the menu and kind of peruse the food until you get right up the front, and all of a sudden you have to make a bunch of decisions, which is probably why people spend a lot of money. They're like, I want this, and this, and then oh my god, I just spent $100. Yeah, I'm with you on the vibe. I think the vibe is 3, just because it's very congested area, or it can be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was even going to say 2, just because we've had some negative.
Okay. I mean, I've had very good experiences where the line just moved. I got our.
Yeah, I'm thinking almost more like the.
But I've also
kind of
been
outside
through there in a half
area,
hour,
like the seating area and stuff like that.
Oh, that's terrible. I've never been able to get.
So maybe I'm
there.
factoring that in more to it.
All right. I'll give you a 2. The vibe, but again, like I'm going off my memories, and the vibe of like kind of sitting in the street, sharing a meal, and that type of thing was always very cool too. And you're listening to music, so I'm gonna have to ask you to bump it at a 3.
Okay.
Because the inside drag, like normally if that place was empty, the vibe is like a 4 to me.
Right.
The crowds drag it down to a 3. You've had some bad experience. You know what? I'll give you your 2 because I think you've had.
I mean, it's still like if it helps you, it's still currently running in first place. So.
Well, I know because we gave it just a bunch of 5s. That's the only thing.
Next up is the Lotus Blossom Cafe, which is the quick service option in the Chinese pavilion. They have pot stickers, egg rolls, orange chicken, chicken fried rice, Mongolian beef. It's honestly not that different from probably your local Chinese place.
I've never eaten here before. Again, let's go through this one real quick. The menu itself is fine. Like that's a 3, right? I mean, it's got a good selection. I think
it's a little
actually,
limited.
No, it's
actually
kind of
limited. Yeah, I was going to say a 2.
Let's go with 2. You're right. Yeah, there's like
quality.
only 4
We've
things.
eaten there. It's fine. It's not that much better than kind of your local Chinese place though too. So I can't give it super high.
Then I've never eaten here before because again, it's like eating local Chinese food. I'm eating other things.
So I'll give it a 1.
Okay.
Value, you $14-15 again for food you can get at home. So
I'm giving that a 1. That's ridiculously expensive.
Theming, it does look nice in there. I mean, it definitely, again, you're in the Chinese pavilion and it feels like something that was well put together and crafted. There's a lot of carvings and stuff like that.
If our floor is a 3, is there anything in there that bumps it up?
No, I think a 3 is fine.
Okay.
And then the vibe, if it's not much more than a cafeteria style, but it has a lot. It has more seating. I've never had issues getting seating there and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go a 1 or anything like that. It's probably a 2 or a 3.
Is there anybody yelling out Cartwright? The orders up.
No, there's not.
That would bump it up.
I was going to say, would that bump it up or bump it down?
Yes, absolutely.
I think a 2 is fine.
Okay.
Next is the refreshment port, which is on the way into World Showcase. If you're entering,
I'm surprised this is on here because it feels like I always treated this as like a festival booth.
It does often have some festival items there or additional items. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't even count this one because they only really have one entree, which is the poutine.
Yeah.
So in the interest of time, I'm going to take it
this
off.
is where you got to go to like turn in your like cookie hunt type of thing and get your like final cookie, I guess.
Yeah, I think the
cookie stroll. There. Excuse me. Yeah.
All right, so let's skip ahead to Regal Eagle Smokehouse, Craft Drafts and Barbecue. Sink your teeth into mouthwatering barbecue at this new eatery. It's not that new anymore. In the American Adventure Pavilion. Obviously, this has kind of a lot of your classic American entrees, barbecue type things. It has different style, which I think is nice. It has North Carolina style versus Texas style versus Kansas City style. So it kind of tries to give you a little bit more variety there. It does have usually rotates or it changes up a little bit. They do have a plant-based option, which is nice right now. It's a jackfruit sandwich. It has some good sides as well. So menu, I mean, obviously it's somewhat limited because it's just barbecue, but I think they have a decent variety within that world of barbecue.
I mean, honestly, I think I have to give the menu like, I want to say a 4 because it took me a while to like my wife got the jackfruit because she's vegetarian. So I give them credit for a tasty, we'll talk about this in quality, but like a tasty alternative to like, shredded pork. But there's a lot here, a lot of different kind of tastes, and the kids' meals are pretty good too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm giving this one.
I'm good with
4.
that.
Yep.
Quality, I think it's pretty good for what it is.
I had no complaints about it. So, I mean, I would normally say it's a 3, but you could probably bump this to a 4. I think
in comparison to some of the things we gave a 3, I would give it a 4.
Yep.
Value, things are like $13.50, $14.50 for kind of barbecue
spreads. You get a decent amount of food too.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the floor would be 3. You can probably convince me it's a 4 too.
I think it's a 4 for the amount you can get for it. Theming, obviously it's set up like it's in the American Pavilion, and it's got some loose Muppet things with Sam the Eagle and stuff like that. So it definitely has some theming to it. It's maybe not over the top or anything like that, but I'd say it's at least a 3, right?
Yeah, if we're comparing theming, what did we get? No. Like the inside, it's a nice building. It's huge, right? Like, and there's a lot of space. We always ate outdoors out there. There's a lot of space on all the tables out there near like where the tap house section is. I don't know. I think I would give theming a 4 on this one because you do get like the American like vibes going on with it too.
Yeah.
So the only issue is there's not really any like music that you it's like all really background music that you really can't like it's indiscernible, I guess, if that's even a word. So are we going with 4 or a 3 on this?
I'm good with a 4. I think it has a definite theme and stuff like that. And then the vibe,
I mean, this doesn't have crowds, but there's no other vibe with it too.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of space. It's just like a lot of space, right? So you're not like there's no vibe there. It's just like a bunch of tables.
Yep.
So because you're in the American Pavilion, I guess the floor, what did we say, was a 3 because you're in the World Showcase. So
3.
This is the least interesting pavilion of all the World Showcases, I guess, because it's just wide open.
Yeah.
At that point. So do we stick to a 3?
I think a 3 is okay.
Okay.
The next one is Sommerfest, which is in the German pavilion. Sorry, 1 second. And obviously that's where you can get a lot of your bratwurst on pretzel bread, pretzel rolls, and plenty of beer and pretzels and all sorts of stuff like that.
2 for me. Menu's at 2. It's not very exciting.
No, there's not a lot to it. It's pretty limited. Quality, I mean, I think it's okay for what it is, but it's
Again, it's a 2. It's pretzels.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad, but it's not great.
Yeah,
I'm not screaming to go over there.
Value, I mean, it's kind of just 11 for a pretzel, and the bratwurst is $12 on the pretzel roll. I mean, I think it's okay, but
Again, 2 at that point.
Theming, I mean, it's in the Germany pavilion and stuff like that. It kind of feels well themed, but it is just kind of a little stand
3.
too. Yep.
3, right? And the vibe, I think, is the same.
Yep, that works.
Right across the board.
I
mean, it's like there's just not much to it. It's like you get a pretzel and a beer. That's it.
It does the job. Like
Yes.
it does what it's supposed to do. Sunshine Seasons, which is open in the Land Pavilion in World Nature. Harvest the goodness of the greenhouses in the Land Pavilion. Dig into a bountiful selection of fresh, flavorful fare. We haven't gone here as much recently, but it used to be one of our big time go-tos, that it just had so many different options that were a little bit better than like burgers and hot dogs and stuff like that. And everyone could find something they wanted. I found the portions to be big. A lot of times I would get a kid's meal and that would fill me up and stuff. So I think it has a really nice menu.
I don't think I've ever eaten here other than maybe getting like a grab and go like snack or something. But knowing others that have gone there and looking at the menu, I could probably just take the Connections Cafe scores and add 1 to all of them and probably input them in there. Because it's still cafeteria vibes too.
Yeah. The vibe and theming is nothing special, but I think the food and the quality and the value is higher.
Yeah. So do you want to go through them real quick?
Yeah. So the menu, I think it's a 4 just because of the variety of the things it has.
Yeah, I agree.
Quality, I think, some things are better than others. I was going to go a 3.
Yeah, because it's like cafeteria type stuff, but it's good cafeteria style food. So 3 is good.
Value, I mean, things are kind of like $11, $12. I think it's, you can get, and again, a lot of the portions were pretty large. I think it's a pretty good value.
Okay, so what would you give it?
3 or 4.
I mean, I would land on the 3 because it's similar to a lot of other places, so nothing stands out as a great value for it because it is again cafeteria food. So I don't know if I can go to a 4.
I think theming is pretty low. I mean, obviously it's nice that it's in the Land Pavilion and there's huge amounts of seating and stuff like that, but it is definitely cafeteria feeling. So I think just a 1 for theming and vibe.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I agree. I kind of want to go like 1 above Connections only because that one is more airport terminal with a big lines for the bathroom and crowds from Starbucks. At least here, it's a little bit more chill, I think.
Yeah. Well, it can be.
I've never seen it crowded. So
I've seen it crowded. So
okay.
Yeah, I'll give it the same as Connections Eatery, which was 1 for theming, 2 for vibe. So I'll give it the same for that.
Okay.
And then the last one is the Yorkshire County Fish Shop, which is basically the fish and chips that you can get there with various beers and stuff like that. Again, that's the only entree is the beer battered fish and chips. There's a couple snacks and sides and beverages and beer.
I mean, this is basically a festival booth essentially at this point. The menu is a 1 because there's like 1 thing on it.
Yeah.
But to me, the quality is at least a 3 because they make a pretty good fish and chips.
I could argue it's a 4. Just because I think what it is pretty good, but I guess it is.
I could go to a 4 too because I've had it before. I haven't done this because I've only eaten in the restaurant and had it. But every time I walk by, I'm like, I could totally just go and scarf one of these down. I wonder if I could do it before my wife notices type of things.
Value, so it's like $13.50 for the fish and chips. It's usually a 1 big solid, good sized piece of fish.
It's at least a 3.
Yeah, I think 3 works. Theming, I mean, it's pretty well themed as like a British fish and chips place. So 3 or 4, I would think.
I mean, I go with theming and vibe. I think I go 4s because it's like it's nicely placed inside that area, so it's not like you got the rest of the pavilion behind you. You've got the water. There's like good like outdoor seating in that area a little bit. Like
Yep.
you could even go back to the bridge and kind of just sit there and chill if you're going in that direction. The vibe, it never gets like super crowded in that area, even though it's like right at the entrance where like
Yeah,
people
I guess the only negatives aren't really seats, so you kind of have to find somewhere.
Well, I mean, if you go up along the water, there's a lot of seats in that way, but you have to walk for them.
Yeah, you have to walk to them. Yeah.
I mean, if they just added more seats, like in where like the hedge maze is back there, that'd be really cool to be able to hang out back there. So theming, I want to give a 4. I mean, if you want to argue me down a vibe to 3 because of the lack of seating, we can do that.
I think 4. No, 4 is fine. I'm good with the vibe, especially if there's music going and stuff like that.
That would be my first inclination, is to go 4s on that one. I even though I've never eaten from this place, I've eaten from the kitchen, obviously.
Yeah.
No, I dig this place quite a bit.
Yep. So just a quick recap. Looking at the scores, our top score is La Hellas Boulangerie and Patisserie. Not surprising, with 21 out of 25. Second was Regal Eagle Smokehouse with 19. And then I think 17 is the Creperie. And then 16 is the Fish and Chips. So
interesting. Yeah, that's not surprising.
I think those are all popular, solid places to go. So I don't think any of that's super surprising.
All right. So the next part is we appreciate you putting that together, Phil, and scoring us. We are way over here. Do we want to you want to combine the Disney Laments from last week with next week's?
Yeah, because we'll see what kind of the feedback is on the next. Like you said, I think this one could either get a lot of feedback or maybe not any.
Nothing.
So give us a little backup plan if we don't get any.
So the question is, what are some of your unique ways of eating or going to eat, or things that you eat at Walt Disney World? So obviously we're in a food themed kind of run here with the quick service restaurants, and what like these could be things like you always pack a certain food to bring with you into the parks to eat for a snack or a meal. Like you're one of the folks that make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but do you do something different with that? Where do you eat? Is it like, you always go buy the crepes, but you always go walk to a certain place to eat them every single time? That's not like right there, right? Or anything like that in any of the parks, right? It doesn't have to be Epcot. Maybe there's different things that you eat. Maybe like you buy something from one place and you buy something for another, and then you combine them in like a cool little thing. Like I'm just curious what people do.
Kind of unique, either strategies or traditions or things, ideas that you have related to eating at Disney.
Things that would make a good conversation when it comes to food. That's just like, I just went here to eat and I really liked it.
Or here's a tip, or here's
exactly.
some.
So think about that. We'll post that, and if you don't have anything, we'll read both of these together next week. So we got some really good laments. That's why I didn't read them. Rattle.
Yeah, we didn't want to rush through them.
Yeah. And of course, I want to announce that next week, Phil did a wonderful job in contacting the one and only Scott Gustin. He will be on the show next Monday to talk about D23, and we're going to go through predictions and rumors, and I don't know if he's going to be sharing anything, but we're going to get his feelings and anticipation. I think I want to talk to, what his view is the last year and a half of what Disney's been doing, and then the ramp up of maintenance, and kind of get the vibe of like Disney spending money, but kind of in the background. And all of a sudden we're going to get this whole thing hopefully dumped on us. Like, oh my God, they're going to do all these crazy things. So we're going to go over predictions and ask him a bunch of questions and what he's heard on rumors and that type of thing and his expectations. But I kind of want to get the context of like the last year and a half leading up to this, right? The recovery from Destination D last year to like this point, right? Or maybe the recovery from the last D23 and the blue sky nonsense to today. So like that's been quite a journey in the Disney community. So I'm curious to see how he views that, personally. So that'll be next week. We appreciate that. Phil, anything else I need to add that I forgot?
No, just a reminder of our social media accounts. We're all over the place at the DBC Pod over on Twitter and Facebook, as you are usually on, but also Instagram and Threads and YouTube, and of course our Discord server.
Yes, get on Discord, join the conversation. Thank you very much for everybody for watching and listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care.